day of timelines are so important.
Like, say it again for the people in the back.
It's like
this is so fun. I love it. Company. Hey guys, Ashley May here with The Big Fake Wedding, and I am here today with Christa Norman of Christa Norman Photography. And she and I actually had the great pleasure of meeting at The Big Fake Wedding San Diego back in 2018. And I loved her so much that I actually booked her for my very own wedding a few months later. And it was the absolute best decision we made throughout our whole wedding planning process. Christa offered so much wisdom and insight to us as we were planning our very first wedding, and I'm sure that there are many of you out there planning your own wedding that might glean some really great insight from her as well. So I wanted to ask her a few questions that are hopefully helpful to so many of you. So first of all, as people start the journey of looking for wedding vendors for their best day of their life, what is something specific they should be looking for in wedding photographers?
Yes, that's a really great question, especially nowadays because so many people are trying to be photographers, which is awesome, but not everybody has the experience necessary to do a good job. And so the way that you can tell a good photographer from a bad one is first is if their work is consistent. So what you need to look for is you need to go to their website, not just their Instagram, and you look through their gallery and look through their blog and ask yourself, is the lighting consistent? Do they have the same type of photos every single time? And the reason why consistency is so important is because that gives brides the assurance that the photographer is going to be able to deliver those things at their own wedding. The second thing I would recommend is that brides look for a photographer that has a really great personality.
Yes!
Like, your photographer is going to be with you more than anyone, more than your best friend, more than your mom, more than your coordinator, and you need to not only get along with them, but feel comfortable enough to be yourself.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's really important. And then the third thing that I always tell couples to do is ask the photographer for a full gallery. Because often photographers can just present the highlight reel. They'll just show the best of and not necessarily the whole day. And so brides want to have the assurance that from start to finish, the photographer can capture their day well.
Yes. Well, I can definitely speak to number two with personality. Christa has a stellar personality, and she really made me feel so comfortable all day. Me and my husband felt so present and in the moment, and I totally attribute that to you. And she was so spot on. She told us while we were planning our wedding that, you know, you're going to be with your photographer and videographer the most throughout the day. And I hadn't even thought of that yet. And so that was so helpful walking into that day and knowing that I had made a great decision in her, and it helped as we chose our videographer as well, thinking through that of, hey, we really need to not only respect this person's work, but really like being with them as well. And we definitely did with you. So, yeah. Second question for you. What is your favorite part of a wedding day?
That's really tough because I kind of just want to say the whole day.
Yeah.
The whole day is my favorite. And I don't know, it's hard because it's changed over the years. Like when I first started shooting weddings, it was for sure when the bride was walking down the aisle. But lately, what has been making me cry, which is kind of like my gauge of like what my favorite part of the day is, what's making me cry the most, has been the first dance. It's just such a sweet moment. All your family and friends are gathered around the dance floor. The music is playing. The bride and groom are together. They're caught up in this sweet moment, and it's just so beautiful. Two people moving together to the music, and yeah, that's my favorite right now.
That is so awesome. Now, I know that you are about 4 years into your wedding photography career, and you've had quite a few clients on the other side of your lens. Yeah. What would you say, if you could fill in the blank, you love when your brides...
I would have to say I love when my brides trust me, because what happens when your brides trust you is that they can then be comfortable. They can let go of worrying about like, how's my hair looking, is my makeup perfect, and they just know that I'm doing my job, I'm doing my half, and I'm going to help them look their best, and then they can just focus on each other. The bride can just focus on her groom, whom she loves so much, and that's when the magic happens. That's when you get really genuine, authentic moments, is when the bride isn't so self-aware, and when she can trust me, that's normally when that happens.
Yes, that's amazing. And you have absolutely the best personality to be around and made us feel so comfortable with you. And you know, I can attribute that a lot to just your marvelously intentional personality, but throughout the whole process, not only leading up to the wedding day, but on our wedding day and after, you made us feel so cared and so loved and just known by you. So like I said, I know a lot of that is attributed to just who you are, but is there anything that you tangibly do in your process to make brides and grooms feel loved and cared for?
Well, before I answer that question, specifically, it really all starts with my why. Why I do photography. Why am I a wedding photographer? And that is to, first of all, encourage marriages, encourage thriving marriages, and secondly, to help people be present and in the moment on their wedding day. So those two things are why I do what I do. And the reason why that is important is because whenever I make a decision, like that's in the back of my mind.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking about when I'm like, what poses should I do? That's what I'm thinking about when I'm making email templates and all the tangible things that make a couple feel cared for. If it's not fueled by a really rich why, then it's all just gonna fall apart and not matter. And that's when you get clients, or that's when you get vendors that are jaded and like just don't really care anymore and they're just kind of faking it.
Going through the motions.
Yeah, it's because they've lost their why. So it really starts with that. It really starts with the strong why.
Yeah.
But I guess I could say two tangible things that I do specifically to try to make my couples feel cared for is first, the type of images and the experience. So when we come to a photo shoot, I have to think about like, okay, how am I gonna encourage marriages to thrive and how am I gonna make a couple feel present when I'm shooting with them? And that's to be their friend and make them feel comfortable, and to choose prompts and poses that enable them to have quality time together. So it's not just like, stand here in front of this pretty background and let me take a photo of you, but it's like time for people to connect with one another, because those are the pictures later down the road that they're gonna look back on and be like, oh yes, like I remember our commitment to one another. I remember how we felt on our wedding day. And even though I might not feel that way right now, as that often happens in marriage, you can then look and focus on the things that matter. Like, yes, I am reminded of the love that we have, even though I might not feel it. I'm reminded of the commitment that I made, even though I don't feel it. So that's kind of how I tangibly approach shooting the type of images that I want to get. The second way would be organization, as in workflow and then day of timeline for the wedding. All that back end stuff really makes your clients feel cared for without them even really knowing it. So like workflow, for instance, having that set up so I don't even have to think about it anymore. It's not an active part of my brain. Just I will get like 8 weeks before every client's wedding day, I will get a reminder that says I need to send them the pre-wedding questionnaire so that everything is set and that I have all the information I need to do a good job at their wedding. Like just every point of the wedding, that's all being taken care of and I don't even have to think about it. And then that is also providing my couples with all the information they need before they need it. They feel really taken care of by that. And then also timelines. Day of timelines are so important. Like,
say it again for the people in the back.
Typically, like the vendor you associate with the timeline is the coordinator.
Right.
You think like the coordinator has complete control over the timeline and like she can just deal with it, or whoever.
That's in her lane.
Yeah, but like photography is like so influenced by the timeline, and how your client feels is so influenced by the timeline. So as an example, coordinators are like the captain of a ship and the photographer is like the navigator. The photographer guides the couple throughout the wedding day. They're together and they set up the experience. They are making sure that the couple is moving along, and the coordinator is making sure the whole day is happening, but the photographer is kind of in charge of the couple's experience. So that means that the photographer needs to make sure they have enough time for everything. So what I do, instead of like a month before the wedding reaching out to the coordinator and like asking for the timeline and then being distraught because they only gave you an hour to do all of the photos, what I do is I send the coordinator like almost right after I book with the couple, like a little list of how much time I need for each part of the day. I have it down to a science of like, I need 30 minutes to shoot this, an hour to shoot this, 15 minutes to do this.
Right.
And that way, the couple is never being rushed. They're always getting the photos
so
that
important.
they need. Yeah, and they're having a good experience, because I feel like often people have the experience, or brides and grooms have experience with the photography, that they're rushing from one thing to the next.
Right.
Hurry, we gotta get these family photos done because we have to do the romantic and the sun is setting. And like, that should never happen, because if you're an experienced wedding photographer, you know how long it takes you. You know when the sun is gonna set, and you're responsible to think of that ahead of time and not be reactive to the scenario, but be proactive.
Oh, so good. So good.
Yeah. So those are some tangible things.
Yeah. Well, I can see, oh my gosh, just how passionate you are about your job and about caring for your couples, and your why is so rich. I see that embedded in everything you do and your processes. And you know, what you're saying in point number 1 is that you are just a curator of quality moments for these people. You're not just a photographer, but you're curating these moments that, you know, the moments where you're taking photos is also memorable, not just the photo. And with point number 2, you have just shown that you are able to anticipate needs and how important that is, and how that all weaves back into how absolutely cared for the couple feels. And you have done so much work to ensure that that happens, and it's remarkable, and it's so evident. It really is so evident. And you are just a marvel. I love you so much. I'm so happy to have done business with you professionally, and then have a personal relationship with you after you've shot my wedding. I mean, you are just a dynamite person to have in your life. Well, thank you guys for joining us today. Hopefully this was helpful to you on your wedding planning journey. I know that I really enjoyed the insight I gained from you and just spending time with you. Be sure to check out thebigfakewedding.com to see where you can join the party in a city near you. See you again.